I'm Jim Check with Now Media. With me, Sharron Simpson.
Hi, Jim.
Publisher or author of the Kelowna story.
Yeah.
You know lots about the Kelowna story, obviously.
I hope so, since I wrote the book.
There you go. I mean, it starts from way back when Kelowna first started. And I imagine this is a passion project. Is that kind of what prompted you to do it, or?
What prompted me to do it was an invitation because there was no other history of Kelowna written. So Harbour Publishing got in touch and asked me if I would be interested, and I said yes. So I think probably it began with Mosaic Books, saying people keep coming into the store and saying, is there a history of Kelowna available? And no, there wasn't.
Yeah.
So that's how this evolved.
And Mosaic Books is a great local business located downtown. And there's a picture, if you could zoom in on that, or if you can pull that up.
That's probably Bernard Avenue in about 1953, when the streetlights went down the middle of the road.
Yeah, probably too many people hit them. Angle parking still?
Angle parking.
Angle parking.
Yes, lots of parking.
You were on city council at one point.
I was on city council.
What years were you on city council?
86 to 93.
Were you responsible for the reverse angle parking on Pandosy?
No, thank heavens. That was a terrible decision.
Who made that decision?
I don't know. They probably don't want me to remember either. It was very bad.
When I first moved here, that's what was going on. I think that was like 26 years ago. That was a
pretty weird decision, wasn't it?
That's odd, for sure.
Yes. No, when I was on council, it was we were just coming out of the terrible 80s with the high interest rates. And any development that walked across council's desk, we approved everything.
Yeah, because I fled the boundary country at that time for a job in northern Alberta, because at that time I worked at the mill in Midway, Pope and Talbot, and the economy just cratered, and there was 50 guys at the gate every morning looking for a job. There was just no jobs, right? There was nothing. And that was the only time in my life that I was an artist for the government drawing unemployment, and I did that for a year. And I went up north, and I got myself a job right away as a silver and ceramics technician, dishwasher. But it was work, right?
Yes,
and work was hard to come by, like in that time, right? So like,
and that's why any development, any activity that crossed council's table, we approved of it. Yeah. So it fortunately settled down a bit, but that was the time
it was a tough spot, for sure.
It was a tough spot. Yeah. And the Kelowna waterfront was just up for development. So Waterfront Park, the lagoons, all of that area. That's part of what we were talking about at the time.
Okay, yeah, and Waterfront Park is one of the most beautiful areas of Kelowna. Yep. So that was nice that was kind of preserved for the public as well.
It was bought from the railway. Yeah. The railway owned the whole thing, and it was bought by the city of Kelowna.
Good purchase, because I mean that's Kelowna property. Right?
Absolutely, stunning. Yes, always. Yeah.
Can you pull up this image here? Can you find that in there and see if you can pull
right at the
up?
front of the book?
Yeah, right at the front of the book there.
Yeah, there.
There you go, and. No street lights or anything at that time, and no real lanes or anything?
No pavement.
No pavement, just dirt?
And there might have been, nope, doesn't even look like there was a wooden sidewalk for many years.
A boardwalk kind of thing.
Yes, but up off the dirt, because, you know, this is the corner of Pandosy and Bernard. I think that's what it is. And, but the Okanagan Lake used to flood. I mean, Water Street was called Water Street for a reason. Yeah. And the water flooded up to there. So the main street was usually quite muddy. And the boardwalks, because early in the 1900s, women wore long skirts. And if you weren't on the boardwalk, you dragged it in the mud.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And then one of the things, Kelowna, I don't know if you have a picture in here, the aquatic center was a big feature. Yeah, you do probably.
In the 40s. Yes, the regatta where we hung Hitler in effigy.
There you go.
The aquatic is quite remarkable, Jim, because it was a mammoth part of Kelowna's history. and there's not a sign of it anywhere down on the waterfront. There's this sort of strange asphalt as you walk into the park and turn the corner towards the bridge. And we'll try and find a picture because it was central to Kelowna's existence, and we have totally ignored that.
It was a main feature, and I know a few older gentlemen in town that I've talked to that were actually there when it burnt down that day.
Oh,
they were there on their bikes. I don't know if you probably know Gary Czar.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, I knew you would.
There. Look,
there you
look
go.
at this.
Yeah.
It's quite, and this is the old diving tower.
Yeah.
But here's the oval, which I don't know if it's still there.
I believe it is,
Sands Beach.
Yeah.
But there was seating for 8,000 people.
The grandstands there, and that's really what kind of lit on fire, I think, too, right?
Yes, it was a wooden grandstand.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if you can pull that up there. If you can find that, no, saying no. But if you buy this book, you get all the pictures.
And the stories.
And
too.
you can find it in Mosaic Books,
Yes, you can.
downtown, good local business as well.
Yeah.
So you're supporting a local at the same time, and also getting a lot of Kelowna history here. But yeah, that is one of the bigger stories that I hear all the time.
That
is
the huge. It took over. It took over the whole summer in Kelowna.
Yeah.
I mean, when 10,000 people came. Lived here. I don't know, 100,000 people came.
Yeah,
5 days of partying was spectacular.
I mean, we finally put a 50-meter pool in here in the H2O Center. But here's a 50-meter pool that you can build a lot cheaper.
Yes, but by that time, competitors who came to swim at the regatta weren't thrilled with swimming in open water.
Yeah.
Ducks and whatever else. And so
Sturgeon, Ogopogos.
Ogopogos. There was lots of controversy about whether this should be rebuilt, and what happened, in fact, is the insurance money built Parkinson Rec. And which was a year-round facility. This was a summer facility.
So that was their trade.
That was the trade-off. The insurance money built Parkinson Rec, and of course now we're at Parkinson Rec.
I don't think that insurance check is going to cover the new Parkinson Rec.
No, I don't even expect that it'll open a door. In fact, the $300,000 was the insurance.
Was that what they? Yeah.
Yes.
They built Parkinson Rec for $300,000.
I don't know. Maybe they probably added more money
a little
to
bit to it. Yeah, for sure.
But it was the center of everybody's life, and there is no marker down in City Park that this ever existed. It was a very big deal.
Whenever I talk to old timers, that's the first thing they talk about.
It was fun.
Is the Kelowna Aquatic Center.
Yeah.
I could see why it would be such a draw, for sure.
Such a draw. And the regatta itself, were spectacular. Evening shows, day shows, races for kids, races for senior Olympic diving champions. This is the new, it's on page 193. The new diving tower. Every kid in town had to go up to the top of the diving tower, you know.
Of course. Yeah.
You might walk down, but you had to go up there.
You had to look anyway, right?
Yes, this is the old one, the wooden one.
Yeah.
But you had to go up there just to prove you could, and you could walk down if you had to. But it was where everybody in town spent their summers.
So Kelowna didn't start as an orchard town. It started more of a tobacco town.
No, it started in the orchards. The tobacco came later, and one remaining remnant is the tobacco barn at the corner of Kelowna and Benvolen, which every time I go by, I expect it to have fallen down. The tobacco came a little bit later. Most of Benvolen Road was tobacco farms, and in Okanagan Mission, they were making cigars and selling them to the mines in the Kootenays. They were called Kelowna Pride and Fleur de Kelowna.
There you go.
Very enticing. And the British North America Tobacco Company still has their name on a building on Ellis Street.
You got any of those cigars still hiding in a desk drawer somewhere?
No, never seen them. They'd be quite dry and crispy at this point.
You bet, unless they were in a humidor or something.
Yes, or something. But it was a flourishing business for a while. I think somebody was diddling with the books, and then the war came along, and it failed. And I think a lot of investors probably lost lots of money on
So
it.
you were born here in Kelowna.
I was.
Can I ask what year?
No.
Oh, you were born here a while ago.
A while ago. My parents were born
Your
here.
parents were born here as well.
And my grandfather came here in 1913.
Oh, wow. So you guys, you've seen kind of like the whole progression up till now of what Kelowna, through your family's eyes anyway.
Through my
right?
family, absolutely.
From 1913 would be kind of when the automobiles are just starting to kind of like become very popular.
Automobiles came to Kelowna really early, like 1905.
Oh, really?
And
I thought they would have come later, but
no, and they only got to Kelowna because they were put on one of the paddle wheelers and brought down the lake from Vernon, and they created havoc because most of the streets were filled with horses and buggies, and horses went racing off into the bush, bolting into the bush.
Getting a little freaky because they were noisy.
They were noisy, and Bernard Avenue, is wide enough for a horse and wagon to turn, or it was. It is no longer. And the idea was that anybody could come in town with a wagon and a horse and load up and turn around. Yeah. But what that did is it opened up this wonderful space for people to drive their cars. Yeah. So they drove in any direction they wanted to drive.
Yeah, we saw that in that first picture we showed.
Yes.
It was just basically just wherever you wanted.
Wherever you wanted to go, and wherever you want, stop the car, that's where you parked.
Just got out and just...
Yes. And the orchard and the farmers pleaded with City Council to please create one day a week where there were no cars allowed, because that meant that the farmers could come in town and rest assured their horses wouldn't bolt.
Well, you can tell them now that they do have that in the summer.
Yes, they do have that. I mean, maybe that's progress, Jim.
They can bring their horse and buggy into town.
Into town and be quite happy. So, and people had to order cars in advance. So, I mean, you might order a car and it might be months and months before it got here. But it would have come from Ontario by train, and then either that car or that rail car would be transferred to the train, the spur line that came from Sicamous to Vernon, and then on to Okanagan Landing. Yeah. And then it would have been put onto a paddle wheeler, on the deck of a paddle wheeler, and brought to Kelowna. Yeah.
So as a youth here in Kelowna, what is the biggest stark contrast for you from what today is and what it was back then when you were a youth here?
Safety.
Safety? More safe now or less safe now?
I think kids then could just simply walk out the house and say, bye, see you later, and come home at supper time, and nobody gave a thought to the whole thing. And they went down to the aquatics, spent the day. They went hiking in the that, and Kelowna was really isolated. If you wanted to go to Vancouver, it was a 2-day trip until 1948, 49, when the Hope Princeton came in. So you either had to go to the Fraser Canyon or you had to go down through the States to get to Vancouver. So Kelowna was really isolated for much of its early history.
I grew up in high school in the last part of elementary school in Midway, a smaller town.
Oh, even smaller. Yeah.
And then so we could disappear for 3 days, and our parents wouldn't even they just they went camping or they went hiking or whatever. And you could actually take a gun as a 13-year-old. You could walk downtown with a .22, and you're just going, what I mean, shooting gophers or whatever it is you were doing, and nobody cared. Nobody nothing.
Nobody pays any
Nobody
attention.
Nothing, right?
It was very, and it was a small enough community, probably 4,000 or so, that everybody knew you. Yeah. So if you got into mischief, your parents would certainly hear about it in short order.
No, for sure. Yeah. It's definitely a smaller, tighter knit community, and a lot less, like you say, safety hazards. Although you could get yourself into more trouble because obviously you would do things that were probably not as safe yourself, right? Like go on 3-day hikes.
Well, when I was 12, I rode a horse to Vernon on the back road.
By yourself, probably.
Well, no, there was three other 12-year-olds with me. I mean, I can't imagine somebody doing that today. And I'm astounded that my parents thought it was okay, but it was.
No, I'm the same with my parents. Like I said, you could go on a 3-day camping trip, and they, like in the bush by ourselves
Yeah.
as 12-year-olds,
Yeah.
and you'd camp and hunt for grouse or whatever,
Yeah, whatever.
and cook
yeah.
it. Or
well, we
whatever.
rode our horses up there.
Yeah, and what are some of the biggest changes, like when you look back and some of the stuff that you kind of see in here? There was the Gooshigan village was.
Well, there was Gooshigan House.
Gooshigan House, sorry, yes.
Yes, which was.
Do you have that image there, Gooshigan House?
That's.
No?
And it's early.
It's early, yeah.
It's when Lord and Lady Aberdeen came, spent a week. Oh, there it is. There's the original house.
This one here.
Page. On.
Yeah, there's no pages on there.
Oh.
It's right in the beginning there. If you just scroll through, why don't we do that? Why don't we start in the beginning? We'll scroll some images and you can just chat about some of the images in the book. There it is.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the original. And that was, I think that was a paper chase, which meant they chased paper instead of foxes. But the Aberdeens probably
I think that's in the next page there.
were the
Yeah, there they are.
Lady Aberdeen particularly were the influencers of their day. They spread the word throughout the empire that Kelowna was the place to come to, or the Okanagan, not necessarily Kelowna, but the Okanagan. And so what they did is they attracted their friends and their colleagues in this minor royal circle that they traveled in.
Mm-hmm.
But the Okanagan became recognized throughout the British Empire. So we're talking big spaces here.
Yeah.
And it was the endorsement from Lord and Lady Aberdeen that made people think that, oh, well, we should come here, especially the Brits and the Scots.
And if you look at that backdrop here, I mean, it's pretty impressive.
Yes, and it was pretty impressive then.
Yeah.
So they were the ones that brought the immigration here, and their friends, sort of young, healthy, perhaps well-off men, usually men more than women, and they settled and they decided that orcharding was a acceptable, gentlemanly type of occupation, because really all you had to do was get somebody to plant your trees, and then you could sit on your veranda and just watch the fruit grow.
There you go. We moved here in 1998. My wife got a transfer with the bank from Edmonton. And I remember that for her, it was at that time, it was really hard for men to get a job here in Kelowna. And she would always get like, oh my, did your husband get a job? That was the question people would ask the first time. Because there was a lot of like cabinet makers and stuff that people that had, kind of like their own kind of, like you had to start your own business really to get a job at that time. But
well, I guess that's the story of people arriving and creating their own jobs. And they did that right at the very beginning, and they continued to do that.
Maybe pull up that document, and then we'll just scroll through it here, and then Sharron will tell us where to stop.
Oh, that's Kelowna. That's early Kelowna. I don't know, a bleak and unpromising little place.
Yeah, if you rode into town at that point, you'd say, am I in the right place?
Well, Kelowna was always the smaller sort of smaller on-the-shelf community compared to Vernon and Penticton.
When we were youth, when we lived in Midway, we'd go to Penticton. We wouldn't come to Kelowna because Kelowna was more of a working town at that time, and Penticton was kind of.
Penticton had two beaches.
Yeah, and beautiful beaches.
Yes,
still
beautiful
do,
beaches,
yeah,
and the Hope Princeton Highway ended at.
Penticton was the jewel, I would say.
It was absolutely. And Vernon had a railroad in 1892, so it was connected to the outside world. Yeah. Kelowna didn't get a railroad until 1926. So
a couple of things lined up for that, though, because Penticton had that riot, and then they kind of shut Kelowna down for youth.
The riots in both places happened at the same time. They were young people were driving one to the other the other, and.
But then Kelowna kind of brought business in, the connector,
Well, the connector transformed everything here. Yeah. That's the big marker of where things changed.
And then the airport, because Penticton used to be the airport too.
It
People
did.
would go to that airport, right?
I used to go down to Vancouver and go to Penticton and catch the plane.
Now Kelowna is the international airport.
So it was started before the connector. but the connector was the key that transformed Kelowna's future.
Yeah, and the university obviously helps. Like
all of those things happened since then.
Really helped, right?
So. Yeah, absolutely. But for many years, until probably the 80s, both Vernon and Penticton were more promising places than Kelowna.
No, I mean, we spent the mall was there too, Cherry Lane Mall.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Orchard Park came in 1973.
Yeah, I drove in the ditch on that one. Like, there used to be just drive in the ditch there. There was no mall. Traffic was bad, so I just drove. I have four-wheel drive, so I just drove in the ditch.
Yes. Well,
there was no bylaw at that time.
No.
Not till you got into office there.
No, that wasn't my fault. Didn't do that. So, I mean, Kelowna was really the backwater for many years. Yeah. And all of it started to change with the connector. That was the big move.
And now big things have happened. The Cancer Center and the regional hospital, all kinds of
all those
big
things have come afterwards.
So when did you run for council? I don't want to make it too much about you, but there's obviously 86. You were motivated, right? So
86. I came back to town in 83, 84, 83.
Yeah.
I was asked by the then mayor if I wanted to run. And
who was that at that time? Was it Jim? No?
John Hindle.
John Hindle, yeah, okay.
It was fun. It was fun to come back and do that.
How long did you serve?
7 years.
7 years, there you go.
So, but it was before social media, so it was much more fun than it is now.
Yeah, and then you obviously care about this community. You write this book.
I do.
You care about this community. You write editorials every now and then. We publish them.
Yeah.
And obviously you have
my rants.
Rants, whatever. They always seem to have a positive rant, though.
Well, I'm sure people keep reading them, Jim, and say, "Oh God, I wish you'd shut up."
We keep publishing them.
Yeah. Well, I operate on the premise of you have a voice, use it.
Yeah. No, I think to me too, it's like even I coached for 10 years, and I was in the stands watching my daughter as a 7-year-old, and then I'm thinking, you're getting frustrated. So, well, don't get frustrated. Do something.
Do something.
Right? Do something. So step up. So I coached for the next 10, 11 years, right?
Yeah. So let me talk about the last chapter.
Sure. Let's do that.
I was asked if I would. The book sold out, which is why there's a second edition.
Yeah.
So, which means there's about 4,500 copies of it out there.
Yeah.
And I was asked if I would write an additional chapter, which I agreed to. But then I sort of sat and looked at what's happened in Kelowna in the last 15 years, and it's pretty startling. I mean, the development, the densification, the increase in population, I think it was from 117 to 165.
Yeah, it's huge.
And that change. I think we're in the midst of climate disruption. I mean, you look at the impact of the wildfires and the frequency of the wildfires. You look at last year, we had no soft fruit. And look what happened to the wine industry.
Yep.
And tourism last year was pretty desperate. So we are, and the development that has occurred is really pretty profound, really profound. Mm-hmm. And especially with the city policy of densification. Mm-hmm. And this is the perfect, I mean, this is little Coronation Avenue is where it is. And the last picture in the book is a panorama from the west side looking back at the Kelowna skyline. Yeah. And there's sort of two pods of development, one in the north end and one by Gospel Mission downtown. Yeah. And there is a blank in there, and that is slated to be filled up. Yeah. So the picture is really kind of interesting because we'll be able to see the progression of the development. It'll be profound.
Maybe you'll be interested in this. You can actually use a tool, AI, and then I've done it, and you can ask it to do a projection of 2050, 2030, and what Kelowna will look like.
Well, and there are apparently, I went on the planning department website, there's 48 towers in this area.
Yeah, there you go.
So, but if you don't have the AI tool and you want to, you can just watch it. I mean, they're already started. You can see them. Yeah. And UBCO is a connection.
I mean, if you're on the west side there, there's a great place to take photos there, just around the bluff there, not the bluff itself.
By the cemetery?
Yeah, just there before the gate there. You can you can park your car. That's a dead end road there.
Yeah.
You can park your car and you can take some photos there.
Yeah.
And or you can use a boat and go out there and take yourself a photo. Yeah. Or a floating device.
Yeah.
Back in the day, you would just take a rubber tire, like a what's it called? A tube.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't have those anymore.
Yeah.
So
they're fancy.
Yeah.
And pink.
Yeah. Yeah, they're fancy and pink and got pictures on them.
Yeah.
Back then it was the big metal thing. You got the big tractor one and it's stuck in your back, right?
Yeah. So lots has changed, but the stories go back to the very beginning, and some of them are funny. I mean, there were characters. I mean, if you didn't have any other way to get between Vernon and Penticton, you rowed your boat. You rowed a rowboat. And
3 days later.
Oh, no, 9 days. I'm sorry.
9 days.
9 days.
Wow.
Well, you had to stop at night and rest on the shore.
Cow, that was a heck of a rowing then.
Yeah.
It does flow though, right?
Oh, it does, but I don't think it's a whipping current.
It's a glacial flow.
Yeah, it is, very much. But, Captain Shorts rowed his boat.
Wow.
And then he moved up and got a motor in it, but he didn't calculate his fuel very well. So, he had to pull into the shore and cut down more trees. Or one time he had a load of shakes on there and didn't have enough fuel to get down to his destination, so he just burnt half his shake.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we're pretty lucky with that lake. That lake is
except the lake is forever Kelowna's issue.
Oh.
Because people have to get across it. They used to have to get across it in a scow or a canoe or
ferry.
A ferry. We had paddle wheelers. We had 3 ferries. We had a bridge to solve all the traffic problem, which didn't. So we had another bridge to solve. So historically, Okanagan Lake has been a barrier for Kelowna forever. So what is happening now is not new. Yeah. It's just the volumes have changed and the vehicles have changed, but forever. Neither Vernon nor Penticton have those problems.
No.
So it's unique to Kelowna.
Penticton definitely has more of a land issue, right?
They do.
Because they do have the 2 beautiful lakes, but obviously there's not as much land there to deal with for development. And unless you go, I think that if you go north there, it's a lot of
maybe that's
land.
A blessing.
Yeah, maybe it is.
At one point, people got really fed up with the fact that the government wouldn't provide ferries, and they were quite useless when they came anyway. So they started building the road on the east side of the lake through to Narromata and Penticton.
Yeah. There's still a rickety road you can go on there.
Very rickety, and it's never been formalized.
I don't advise anybody to do it.
No,
if you don't have survival skills like that guy that took us 9 days on the boat.
Yes, yeah. So there are the stories. There's the bandits who shot up the sheriff and those sort of things. So we've got the characters in there too.
Well, there you go. And well worth your time. And if you want to learn a bit about Kelowna history, you can go to Mosaic. Is it online as well, or can you find it anywhere else?
Can get it at Chapters.
Chapters. There you go. Yeah. Chapters. You get it anywhere then, and then Harbor Publishing is the people that publish it, right?
They are.
So now you're a multi-zillionaire after publishing this book.
Yes, I figure it's about 0.0003 cents a copy or an hour or whatever it is. No, don't write books to make money.
A great gift too.
Great gift
for people,
and especially people coming to town. Who don't know anything and wonder how we got here. That's the story of how we got here.
I picked fruit because I think I shared with you, my mom and dad were immigrants from the Hungarian Revolution or whatever, they escaped the revolution. And we had 7 kids in the family, and we picked a lot of fruit. A lot of it in the Lower Mainland, picked strawberries and blueberries to make money, like the whole family picked. And then this photo here is really like all the people that used to pick fruit, right? I'm sure you picked some fruit as a youth.
Never.
Oh, never?
Oh, wow. Maybe, but not seriously.
Yeah.
That is about where the Capri Hotel is.
Oh, wow.
And those were the old, the first trees planted, which were massively sized, 40-foot trees. And the ladders were wooden and really heavy.
Yeah.
And I think that was during the war because the women are picking.
Yeah, it's
and
all
that
women they're
means,
picking, right?
Yeah, in their long skirts.
Yeah.
So it was
Gotta
probably
be
during the
stylish
war.
if you're picking.
Well, Lord knows. Who cares? The men were all off fighting.
Yeah, they're all off fighting.
The women are there. But
And those are apples they're picking right there.
yes, and this is the gentleman who owned the orchard, Mr. Pridham.
He's not picking.
No, he's organizing.
He's organizing. He's
Yes.
not getting his hands dirty with apples. Apples, yeah.
Yes.
We have some of the best apples. How do you like them apples? But
Yeah.
they're pretty good here in the Okanagan,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
One of the things I'll tell people when I moved back here after being in northern Alberta and that for 20 years, I planted every kind of fruit tree in my backyard. Don't plant apples. Because you have to look after them.
Yes, you have to look after
them.
them.
And then if you don't, they're going to come and look after them for you or cut it down for you.
Yes, they will cut it down because you are really harvesting bugs, and that's all you're doing.
Just if you're going to plant anything, just don't plant apples.
Yeah, well, plant cherries. Those are the money
cherries.
makers.
And well, you don't have to make money even if you want to enjoy it, right? But
Yeah.
be careful also, I'll say. Don't plant too many because then you're begging people to come get it.
It's like zucchini.
That's right. How
Everybody
many cakes
has
can you
zucchini.
make? How many cakes can you make? Anything else you want to add today?
No, but yes. On the 7th of June,
Okay.
I have a launching party at the Okanagan Library
Okay.
at 2:00, and I will be showing some pictures and telling some stories. And I'd love to see everybody who'd like to come and.
So that's June 7th at the downtown
Downtown
Okanagan
Library.
Beautiful library, by the way.
It is. It's a
And
wonderful
got that
library.
big glass wall. Were you there when? Did you okay that one?
I can't remember.
No. There you go. Yeah, so lots of cool things in Kelowna for sure. Lots of cool things. It's a great history, but it is seeing rapid growth right now.
It is.
It is
Yes.
seeing absolutely rapid growth.
Yeah. I think we're sort of in our midlife crisis here.
You know how many people move here because they come here to vacation? They're just like,
Oh yeah, I know.
they're just like, it's seriously like this all the time.
I know.
And that is like if we look out, like I mean, most cities, and it's kind of a telling tale. I mean, look this way. The trees hide most of the buildings, right? But if you go on the other side, it's mostly commercial, and you just see flat rooftops, right?
Yeah.
What do you want to see in the future here? I'll end with that. What do you want to see?
I want the magic to come back. The magic that this is the most beautiful place in the world to live. And I think we're struggling with that at the moment.
How will we know when the magic's back? I guess is my big question then. If you want the magic to come back, what are the telltale markers?
You won't read it in a book.
You won't read it in a book?
No, you'll know.
Yeah. My granddaughter always says when I ask her, how'd you do that? She says, I used white magic.
There she is. Ask her. She'll know.
She's 3 years old and she knows about white magic,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Well, you ask her. She'll
She
know.
watched too many Disney shows, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. I think the dream needs to come back for people to know that they can buy a home and raise a family.
Yes.
I think that's part of the magic, I believe, and
is.
and finding a good job and stuff like that. And
yes, and preserving our history is part of that too, I believe.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then being a part of the community. I think there's a lot of people that are really strong community advocates, as yourself, and I think if we all make it a little better,
Yep.
obviously it'll be a lot better. If we all make it a little better, it'll be a lot better.
A lot better. It will. Yep.
Sharon's going to run for city council again.
Of course. Thanks,
Or
Jim.
mayor.
Been there, done that. So
Been there,
not
done
doing that again.
We do thank you for coming in, and we do thank
my
you for
pleasure.
taking the time to watch Now Media.
We don't just report the news. We live here too. We're your neighbors, bringing you stories that matter to all of us. No government funding, no outside influence. Kelowna Now.